you missed it, you have to grab it up very quickly. They were offered more.
How many more do you have?
Just one.
Just one more? Which, the summer one? The practicum. Yeah. How does that work?
Apparently it's quite different than it was before when I first asked about it, it was like you had to teach for 3 hours and Maddie came to the classroom.
Yeah.
Now somebody said it's for 3 separate hours now.
Yeah.
And you have to go observe others too, don't you?
Which I don't know.
But how does that work if you're not teaching? Like how are you
no, you have to find somewhere to go.
Yeah.
It's up to you?
And that I don't know either. Like before she said, if you can't find somewhere, they would help you. I don't know if they still do but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be, and again, this coming from before when I was going to take it before, and I decided to wait on it. It was like I could go to the high school or I could
you could be like a guest lecturer or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like Jillian and Sylvia, they do the legal assistant. You could go in and talk about the sheriff's office and the mini teach that you did.
I did that quite a while back. I was at the police academy. I did a lecture on sheriffs with the whole teaching thing, but I don't know if
I would do that.
I have some friends that are high school teachers, so I could probably do something in the class or if she wants to come. But to me that'd be, so she's going to come she's going to come 3 different days to.
Yeah,
that's her.
But it's
that's
also
her job.
a certificate in adult education. She'd probably prefer you to have it at the college level. And the police academy would be a great place.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's up to you.
I don't know, but I've taken a lot of different programs too, so it doesn't necessarily have to be there. Like I have a conflict resolution and I have business there. So
I think with the conflict resolution, I could bring you into my HR program. Because I found students, I had some last year who came
that was one of my favorite programs.
Did you do it together?
Or did you do it through the Yeah.
So it looks like the stream wasn't working this morning. OBS had a connection and was showing me that everything was working fine. When I went into YouTube, it was showing that the stream was coming in fine, but that there was some weird error message saying that it couldn't display it. So I deleted it and recreated it, and it seems to be streaming fine now. It's the first time this has ever happened, of course. So unfortunately, I guess everything we talked about this morning, the stream was coming in fine, but there was some weird. I guess what I'll have to do is, at some point, I will basically re-record what we did this morning, and I will post that to make it available for you guys. So I'll just go back and I'll sit in my office at some point, just go through the content really quick again, and just so you have it. So it's recording now, and it'll be recording for the rest of the day, I hope. But that's very strange. I've never seen that before. I apologize. One of those technical issues, right? Of course, the day that I'm talking about live streaming, it never happens when I'm just doing normal content. Just that happens to be that particular day. So, Todd also texted me and said that Cindy, she said she couldn't get in.
Oh, in the building?
Well, then I said I left the door ajar. And she said, no, the parking lot was closed, so she didn't think anybody was here. Yeah, and I did the same thing, so she may have just saw that the lot was closed and then decided to leave from there. So, which is strange. I've never seen that lot closed.
No.
Ever. So I don't know.
So just because classes ended? Welcome last weekend.
Yeah, it's typically it's open every weekend unless they're doing construction work on the parking lot. I've never seen it ever closed. So, and that she didn't see the lot here with the other cars parked. Yeah.
I was the same thing all the way down here.
So I'll re-record that portion, and I'll post that up. So the video will probably be broken up into separate pieces now, but it's not the end of the world. Just waiting. I can't remember everyone's names. Just wait for Gord. Was it? Gord, yeah. And then we'll give him another minute, and then we'll get started. But it seems to be streaming there now, and I think at that link that I provided to everybody. It is very strange. I've never seen that come up before.
It's kind of cool to see it. It's kind of cool to see what it looks like.
To see the actual view itself, yeah, it's that bothers me that because it's usually extremely easy. I just walk in, I plug in, I press record, and away it goes. So why it wouldn't work for today? Is something different in the building, or it just happened that when I hit record, there was something going on at YouTube that blocked it, and I had to recreate.
You can see the 30-second delay.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets a little faster, but I find mostly it's usually about a 30-second delay. And then there is a live, there's a street chat on the right-hand side. So if you were to put something in there right now, it would come up on the video. In the video stream that I have, there's a black area just below the time. You would see the comments appear in there, but there would be about a 30-second delay between that. And typically what I would have, I don't have it up here now, but I would have the actual chat window so I could monitor for chat for people that were asking questions remotely, things. But yeah, very strange. But yeah, that stream that you're seeing will be recorded and made available to watch again later. Fortunate. Well, we'll continue on. It looks like I've already messed up our morning schedule anyway. I was going to kind of go through some of those slides about telepresent and things like that after our break. Again, I don't follow my own guidelines very well, so. So I thought what we might do then is let's have a little discussion, just a group discussion right now about the content that we covered this morning. I'd like to get a sense of how you feel about it and where some of the things, some areas that may have popped up. And then what we might do is we'll break into our little breakout groups, 3 and 3. And in that, I'll give you some more detail on that in a few moments, but just to kind of get together and jot down some notes again on what you thought, and do you see this as anything viable in any courses or anything, like even if you're not teaching right now, do you see this as something that could be done at a job place or work or something like that? So, do you want the lights back on while we chat? There's not much I have to do up here on the screen.
Sure.
It's always a little hard with a dark room when we turn those lights on. But so, I'm interested to hear what you think of what I've shared with you so far. As I share it, I typically will see like heads nodding and interactions that way, but I'd be very interested now that you have had time to kind of reflect a little bit. Is there anything that stood out to you? I did such a perfect job at explaining everything that solid. Does anyone use videos now in any of the content?
I had a student ask for it,
Mhm.
and I was surprised actually. What stood out was the affordability.
Yes.
You know, I thought
Yep.
it was exponentially expensive. I had 3 athletes in my program last year, and my course is delivered on Saturdays, and they were always at games on Saturdays, so it wasn't a good fit. She said,
Yes.
could you just record it? And so I brought it to my program manager, who said, no, we don't have that in our budget. But now stepping back, when the what is it called, the Holland College Foundation, when they ask for initiatives.
Oh
on
yes, like the
funding
President's
things,
Fund
this
and
would be
things
something
like.
to put forward to say,
Yes.
hey, maybe we could have some resources that we could all share, and if we do have students who are going to regularly miss classes, maybe we could actually record them for
There
them.
could be sections there. I know that Curriculum Services is looking into lecture capture software. I heard a price tag that kind of made me almost a little nauseated when I when I heard what some of this software can cost. Some of the systems they're looking at have a price tag of around $30,000 to put this in place. Where I said, well, you do know you can do it for free. There's tons of resources out there. Now, what it comes down to, though, that has to be decided, and I'll probably get my fingers slapped for doing this, but the content that I'm recording technically is Home College property, but it's being kept on YouTube. But right now, there's not too many policies in place that says I'm not allowed to do this. I'm sure there might be something coming down the pipe where they're going to be looking at, well, maybe because it's Holland College property, it should be kept on Holland College property. I mean, I have an argument to say that Sam is not Holland College property. Well, not be able to handle it, but Sam is not even Holland College property. We're using Desire to Learn, which is a system that's out there, like YouTube is out there. So what's the difference? We have a lot of control over Sam. We don't have a lot of control over YouTube. But there are some restrictions that I can put in place. The videos I record are unlisted, which means nobody can search YouTube for them. You need to have a link that will take you directly to that video. Now, if somebody shares that link, we can't prevent new people from watching it, but it just means that it's not public to be able to do that. So there are some restrictions that you can put in. There is a site called TeacherTube that's very much like YouTube, but I think it gives some of those areas where you can make it a lot more private. I have never really looked into it too much myself. The software that I'm going to show you guys in a little bit, the OBS software, doesn't have the ability to stream directly to TeacherTube, but it does have the ability to stream to YouTube directly. So that's one of the reasons why. Now, instead of streaming it, I could be recording it using this software. So it saves it locally, and then I could upload that video to TeacherTube. It's just an extra couple steps, but that possibility of doing that as well. And I'll cover some of those areas. So, yeah, a webcam is basically all you need, and the software, which is free. So, a lot of laptops have webcams built right into them. So you could even have, if you have access to that, that's there. These types of webcams are a dime a dozen. You can easily obtain that. I even downloaded an app just for your own curiosity. The app is called, where is it? Got too many apps on here. EpocCam, EPOCCAM. The app runs, and then I run a small software package on my computer, and if they're on the same network, like I'm connected to the Wi-Fi and they're on the same network, my phone becomes my webcam. So I can just put this here, and it streams it to my computer. My computer then can choose my phone as a webcam in whatever software I'm using, and then I can use that as a stream. So it's pretty cool that I can carry a webcam around with me everywhere I go. Problem is though, is I have to install that software locally, and then I have to make sure I'm on the same network. Unfortunately, right now the college's Wi-Fi is not on the same network as these computers. They keep them separate for security reasons, so I wouldn't be able to use it here. I'd have to set something up. But it's cool at home. Like if I need a quick webcam, I'm on my computer. I just set my phone there and away you go. So there's always options, but like I said, a quick drive to Walmart can pick up a $30-40 webcam that works very well. And usually the microphones that are in them are quite good as well. I've chosen to use this blue, it's called Blue Ice microphone. It's more of a professional based camera, and I've compared the microphone to both, and it's clearer in the classroom. And if I'm doing something in my office, I'll use that Blue Ice microphone about this far away, and it sounds very professional. It's got great sound, great quality in for the recording. So the Blue Ice was about $80 for in there. So, but even still, that's pretty reasonable for what you're looking for. And then everything else, the actual system itself, just an old tripod that was sitting in the closet. I have what's called a USB hub. So it allows me to plug multiple USB devices into the hub, and then one comes out of that. So I have the microphone, the camera, and I have a USB drive on that. The USB drive holds the OBS software. So all I do is I walk into the classroom and I plug one USB into the computer, and now I have the camera, the microphone, and the USB drive, the software, everything I need.
So you can
Is
be
installed
anywhere,
there.
it doesn't have to be
Yeah,
on the same desktop.
it's extremely portable.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it. And I just mounted it all onto one piece. And then I have a USB extender, like a longer cable, just so that if I wanted that camera way over there, then I've got like a 25-foot cable that I can plug in. But it's as simple as that. I just walk in, I plug in one device, and I'm ready to go. Yeah, pretty neat that way. So anything else come up this morning that kind of made sense, or what about the aspects of like using video as a tool itself? Like you said, you had some students ask to record the session, and that's great for what they need, but could you see anybody else in the classroom utilizing that same video? Do you have any of those people in your class, like I said, that ask constant questions, need to follow you after class back to your office so that hopefully you can repeat everything you just said in class over again, right? Those kind of students. So now they have the ability to do that, and you can work with them to explain that everything from the class is in that video. You can take your time now, and you can listen. So other areas that I didn't talk about, has anyone ever here had the opportunity to do work with different learning styles? Have you done any course work or have any kind of research into the different learning styles? So it's changed dynamically since when I went through some of those courses myself, but typically we do have our main three learning styles, right? We have a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. Now, again, they say it's broken down into more sections, but what I see is that there's three different types of styles, but somebody can be a mix of both. So somebody's not just an auditory, but they could be a little bit visual, a little bit here. Something we'll talk about this afternoon when we talk about student engagement, it's how do we help students understand their learning style, can actually help them become more engaged. But with what we're talking about today, video, although you think is a link to the visual people, it actually helps all the different learning styles if you really look at it and kind of dissect it a little bit. So obviously the visual, some students need to see something in order to understand it, and that's perfectly understandable. Auditory people, and when you really start to think about it now, well, they can listen. What if they went home, put the headphones on and just listen to the sound of your voice. They closed their eyes, they didn't watch the video, they just listened to the audio. That could be very beneficial to them. How would you see kinesthetic people? Kinesthetic are people that need to do stuff. They need to touch. That doesn't sound as close, but you may notice kinesthetic people are the type of people that need to move. They're the fidgety ones in your classroom.
They can listen while they're on the treadmill.
Yes, that's just it. They could take this video to the treadmill, or they get 10 minutes into the video and they pause it and they go run around the house a couple times and then they come back where they left it. They can't do that in the classroom, right? So they have that ability to do, and what I typically do, I'm kind of a visual kinesthetic learner myself. I'll watch somebody in a YouTube video do something and I'll pause it. I'll go and try it.
And then come back to where.
And then I'll come back where I left off and I'll pick up. So I can't watch the whole video. No, you just showed me something. I got to go try that first. So I'm going to go do it, try it, fail at it, whatever, then come back and pick up where I left off. So you're giving these students the ability to do that. You know, you get 5 minutes in, pause the video, test it, try it, do whatever you need to do, come back, or like say, just go blow off some steam. Go run for 5 minutes on the treadmill, come back, pick up where you left off. Right? Now, another thing that really helps, and we discuss in class, is when we have different learning styles within the same room. Typically, one learning style could actually aggravate another learning style in the room. And an example I use, there's two that I use, but one example I use is a visual person is very distracted by noise. And you think, well, no, they're visual and they're not auditory. But a visual person, if a visual person hears something, they need to look at what that was. And you'll see those type of people in class. They're very attentive to you, but if somebody drops something or does something, they have to look. They have to see what was that, right? If you put a visual and a kinesthetic person next to each other in a room, the kinesthetic person is going to drive the visual person nuts. The kinesthetic person is the one that's tapping their pen, playing the drums because they can't sit still. The visual person has to keep looking over at that pen because they hear it and they have to visually see it. So now they're being distracted by the room, right? So if you can give people in the room the indication that, you know what, we may be annoying each other in the room or we may be distracting, but keep in mind there's a video of this that later, if you've missed something, you're going to be able to go back and watch it, right? So it's a little less aggravating for the visual person because they know I missed that, but I can watch it again. I can see it again, right?
Do you find it causes people to kind of check out more, though,
To
because they
know?
know that they don't have to pay attention, so
That's-
it'll just be like,
Excellent question. I get that a lot, and I get, well, if I'm going to live stream my class, why are my class going to come?
Yeah.
Why would they even bother getting up in the morning to come to class? Why don't they just stay home? My very blunt answer to that is stay home. If you really don't want to be in class, don't come. It sounds, again, blunt, but if you don't want to be there and you come to class, your body language and attitude is going to present itself during class. You're going to distract me. You're going to distract others in the class. Stay home.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say, to me, and I know some instructors are okay with this, but to me, there's nothing worse than standing up there and passing on some information and seeing this.
Oh, definitely.
Makes me crazy.
Definitely. I'm going to address that in a moment, though, because it may not be exactly what you think.
I know,
But
and I know it could be that they're auditory.
There
and
could
they
be
need
auditory,
to
yeah.
be doing something else while they're listening, and they're still absorbing it the
Yep.
same.
And I have a story that I tell about the resilience of auditory. I had a student one time that would come to class and he'd sit down, and the head would go down, and the hoodie was up. Drove me crazy. Frustrating. Why would you come to class and sleep the whole class, right? So, wrote the first test, aced it. You know what I said? Cheater. There's no way. You're not paying attention, you're not engaged, and you ace the test? No, you're a cheater. So, time went on, similar things were happening, so I had a discussion with him. I said, you know, noticing you're coming to class, noticing you're putting your head down, but I'm also noticing you're doing very well. These two things are not really matching up. He said, well, I've known for a long time I have to close my eyes and I have to listen. And if I'm up looking at you, I get distracted and things like that. So I'm listening, but that's how I learn. And it was just like a light bulb went off in my head that, oh, like, and my first reaction was he was a cheater. It wasn't at all. He understood his learning style better than anyone and knew that he had to do that. I wish maybe he would have communicated it with me, right? In that, but I guess in the long run, now I don't think that. So those people that are on their phones, and we're seeing more and more of it. I mean, everywhere I drive, I see people looking down their phones. We've got this addiction that's out there, but some of them could potentially be absorbing everything I have to say. Some of them might not be. Most of them probably not be. So do we give them the opportunity to rewatch this later? Give them the same opportunity to rewatch it as anybody else in the room, but then I wouldn't go any further than that. If that student ends up failing that class because they're not paying attention, so be it, right? But the same kind of sense of if a student doesn't want to be there, and that's a clear indication if they're just doing this all class, just stay home. It's going to make the class better, but I say it to the group as well. If you really don't want to be here, don't. You're just a distraction to me and the students around you. And I also will say that in my department, we tend to get a lot of laptops in the classroom. If I see that you're doing something and you're giggling and you're asked, like, hey, look at this, and it's a distraction, you're gone. Like, you want to do that, that's fine. You can go down to the cafeteria and you can do that. Not in my class. You're distracting those others that want to be there. So I guess to answer your question, providing the video, will they check out? It's a possibility. They're probably going to check out anyway. Maybe sometimes this is a way of kind of weeding those people out as well. And I don't mean weeding them out like throwing them off to the wayside, but to identifying that you really don't want to be here. Can I help you find something that you really want to do? Can I introduce you to the department, like the student services department? Maybe they can help you find what it is that you're looking for. But I know you really don't want to be here, right? So it could be indicators that way.
We found we have actually less absenteeism with the option of following your class live from outside.
Isn't that interesting?
Really.
So you're getting the opposite.
I have students who before would have been sick,
Yes.
right, a little bit or a lot or whatever, but now will tune in from home, even if like if they're not feeling 100%, but
Yes.
they may not be like down and out kind of thing,
Yeah.
but they'll tune in. They'll make the effort to tune in from home,
Right.
or from wherever they are at
That-
a particular time.
That makes a lot of sense.
So right, they don't
Yeah.
feel obligated to leave the house.
Yeah.
They're not, but they can, pop their laptop open and still hear.
Now, would you see it as a disadvantage to somebody staying at home as opposed to being in class? Is there anything that you would do?
Well, I'm always geared with having people off-site,
Mhm.
every class, right? So.
So your curriculum is designed to support
my
that.
class, my lesson of that day is designed to make sure to include everybody or to have activities,
Okay.
planned for that.
So in that very particular case, if somebody doesn't come, they're still going to get the education that everybody else is getting. I think that's an amazing setup. You've given them the option to learn at a rate and in a way that best suits them. I mean, like I said, I do have some people who come to class that completely check out. So them
does
being
everybody.
in class, yeah. So it really they think it's important to be there. And I had even a discussion this year with a student. Like, well, I'm always in class. I said, yeah, but you're distracted. You're not. You're on your phone. But I'm there. But that doesn't matter. Like, your physical presence really means nothing if you're not going to participate and you're not going to be engaged, right? So there's no attendance mark. I don't give any marks for attendance. I track attendance for administrative reasons, but other than that, there's no
Is
no
there
gold
an
star.
effect on your level of job satisfaction? Like, do you, like, I feel like
Yep.
I would miss the interaction with the students if I would just solely went to online lectures.
If I went solely, yes, I'm a very social person. So being in the classroom, those dynamics, getting into conversations, kind of like what we're doing right now, definitely would be missed. So I wouldn't want. I would want a blended learning style, but I know it's not always available. There are some courses that eventually will have to be offered online only. But definitely, what I'm hoping with this is that I'm using all the different video kind of related tools that I'm going to capture this, but I can also provide a tutorial here, a message here, things like that. And I think it's important to mix it up a little bit too. If it's always the same thing every single day, we come in and we record this video and it's in this format, and they're going to check out as well. So mix it up a little bit. A flipped classroom doesn't mean that you have to do the flipped classroom every single day. You can do a traditional class style one week and flip it the next week, just to mix things up a little bit, right? Get them involved. Get the students involved in creating videos. How about today, one of you creates the tutorial, or this week, I nominate Johnny to do the tutorial for the group this week. Send me your video, I'll upload it into SAM, and the other students can do that, right? So there's all types of way to approach it, but definitely it can be a little.
A benefit that I can see for our department, like I work at the Marine Training Center, so all of our courses are kind of mandated by Transport Canada.
Yes.
And we put on a lot of short courses, so like 1 week, 2 week, 3 week type industry-based
Yes.
courses, and they require a minimum number of hours that the students are in class.
Yes.
So we have to the students sign in and sign out to prove that they were there for the minimum required hours.
Right.
When we have a snow day, it makes it really hard because you've got to now either add hours to the day or try to crunch material into
Yes.
condense. So, the option of doing a live stream from home that the students who are staying in hotel rooms
Yes,
they've flown across the country
because
to
they
be
have.
there,
Yep.
they don't want to miss it.
That's right.
So,
No, definitely the live stream, Google Hangout. There's all sorts of interactive ways. Like, they can log in and live. You can
Yeah.
have an online classroom, right? So there's options. Definitely this year we were hit again with quite a few snowstorms. All seem to fall on a Wednesday, which is
Yes.
my busiest theory day. So many times at home, I would record the lecture that I was going to give them, and send it, put it in SAM, and say, please watch this video before we go to the labs on Thursday or Friday, right? So before we get there, so it has that advantage as well. And you can also track, if you do it properly, you can track who's actually opening the video. I don't think Sam wouldn't be able to tell you if they watched the whole video, but at least you can see interactions of who clicked the link and who hasn't clicked the link, right? So it gives you some statistics that way.
I know a person who has severe social anxiety and does their job from home.
Yes.
So they were trying to get some educational focus, but had such anxiety about going in to go to school, and she was able to do some learning.
To remote.
How she did
Yep.
it.
And then the
Which
communications.
benefited her in her job because it helped her
Yes.
to raise up, and
Yeah,
she
we-
didn't have to go anywhere, so.
We definitely
it was
have.
a benefit for her, like.
Yeah.
Like she said, it was, she told me about it, and she said it's really great.
To
because-
have that option.
Yeah.
We definitely have.
She would have not done it.
Y-
She would not have got advanced in her career.
Exactly.
Because there was no way that she was ever gonna go out to university or a classroom.
Yeah.
She can't do it, so.
It's a shame. We do have some students with those anxiety issues. I had a student this year. Part of what my students will do when they get out into the workplace is they will have to become team members. They will have to present their findings, their weekly updates in meetings and things like that. It's inevitable. So I do have students that struggle with that. And this year particularly, we had a student with declared learning issues that typically we would set up conditions, like if you need extra time to write an exam or something like that, we can do that. But one was providing a presentation to the class, and 15 minutes before, I can't do it. But almost to the other way, he was demanding that I provide a different type of avenue and things like that. So I worked with Velda's group in our student services, and we came up with some other alternatives, but just crippling. Like you could see he was sweating, he was shaking, that he couldn't do this. He was trying to get himself there, but just couldn't do it. So it's a shame.
But
I know.
sometimes that just exacerbates it though. Like if
Yep.
you never push through that, you never realize like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
That's
it was
right.
gonna be.
It gets easier each time you do it. And I know this, I had this conversation with a group the other day. Myself personally, I'm a very introverted person, naturally, and back quite a few years ago, the first time I got up in front of people to speak, I needed something to hold on to because my knees were shaking so bad, right? But it gets better and better each time. Unfortunately, with these conditions, you can't even get to that first time.
Yeah.
It's so disabilitating that I can't even get to that part, right? So,
The person I know does not go outside of the home.
Uh-huh.
Going to try to go to a doctor's.
Yeah.
Is a big
Yeah.
it's a shame.
So everything, but she's a fairly successful career.
Yeah.
And
Like to
does
do that.
everything by video.
Wow. So one extra reason where we might be able to reach out and help people with those kind of areas. So we want to take a few minutes just to kind of get together. Three and three, whichever. If you just want to do this side and this side, you can move out to a more comfortable seating area. Let's take about 15 minutes. Just sort of what we were kind of discussing here. But what I would really like you to do, reflect with the other members, is if you were going to do something, let's say next week, in your classrooms or areas like that, how could you see this? So just share with the group, as Chris was talking about this particular course popped in my mind. I was thinking that maybe I could try this and try that, and just try to get some feedback from one another of, oh yeah, I think that would work. What if you tried this and did that? So just jot down a few notes, and then we'll take some time when we get back just to kind of address it as an entire group and maybe kind of reflect on those ideas. So we'll do that for about 15 minutes, and then we'll meet back here. So we'll meet back here. We'll talk about what we're going to be doing for the afternoon, and then or after we discuss that, we'll talk about what we're going to be doing for the afternoon a little bit, and then we'll break for lunch. How long do you guys normally break? Just half hour or the full hour, or?
You don't normally read.
Oh, you don't even know?
Plow right through, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys if you want to do that today too.
Well, if we're going to be here till 3, that's usually a little bit longer sometimes than
Yeah.
we have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour.
We do half hour,
It gives us time to get
and then we'll
somewhere.
go, and then we might even be done even earlier than that. Are you guys like, you'd like to get out early, or would you rather stay right to the? I know that sounds like a funny question,
That's right.
but sometimes people are like, nope, I gave up my day. I want to make sure I get everything out of here.
That's
So.
just it. Like, this is good stuff, and it's going to be applicable. So
Yep.
whatever we need to do to get it
Okay.
all.
Let's play it by ear, but let's do.
Half hour lunch and then,
let's-
and then we can go through.
Yeah, and then we'll just go from there. Yeah, I'm fine with getting out of here earlier today too. So sounds good. All right, so let's break for like I say 15 minutes. We'll get together as a group, have a little chat. Like I said, try to focus on where you might see this in your own class or job or anything where you could see this as applicable. Get some advice from the other members of the group, and then let's bring those thoughts back to us. Did you have a question? Sorry.
No.
Oh, I saw your arm. I wasn't sure. Okay, so yeah, you can move out of here, or you can stay in here if you wish. And I might float to both groups, kind of back and forth, and just kind of listen in a little bit as you discuss.
Find some comfortable spot. Yeah. Front
Yeah,
lobby?
yeah. The front lobby's got the couches and everything there, and chairs.
One of the big uphill things for this for me is the confidence in my curriculum and the confidence in my class planning.
Yes.
To be able to put it in front of me. So that not
It-
the
it-
motivator
Yes,
for
it can be a
it's
little
that-
bit of kick in the backside to
sure.
to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then you can use it to evaluate it too.
Yeah.
So after you've done, sometimes you feel like, oh, that was a disaster. But you watch it, you think, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're more of a critique on yourself, right? So. Eat my banana live stream.
when did I go in? September, November?
She
Was there for a while.
till December, yeah, she didn't want to stay, she thought it was.
She's back over in probation.
Yeah.
This is interesting stuff. There's tons of ways we'll be able to fold
It-
this into our program.
It can be almost overwhelming though,
Yeah.
until you really sit down and you kind of think about it, like we've had a chance here to do.
So many.
Great thing too is take it back with some of the people you work with and discuss and fire out, like brainstorm, right? Things will always come from it. And then as I mentioned, sometimes it's not great to jump right into the finished product. Try a video, show it to your colleagues, show it to a couple students. What do you think? What's it missing? What would you suggest? And then kind of revisit it a little bit and go from there. But
I like it. There's this year predominantly finalizing the sheets Todd gave us, like what am I going to teach in each class, course overviews to make sure I got my content really formalized, and then try some of this here and there, and then the year after I could see really more of
and
this.
we are a video society now. We are a YouTube kids today. That's like it's been mentioned a couple times. People go straight to YouTube to look for certain things. These things called vines, things like that. 6-second videos, like short attention spans on most people. That you try to get them to read a page, you've lost them.
Right.
If you can give them the same information in a 60-second video, most likely you're going to be a little easier to get that information across to them. So I think Todd's probably even mentioned recording introductory videos
Yes.
for your
Yeah, we can
courses.
do that,
Yeah. So why not? Hi, this is me. Instead of me writing, my name is Chris. I get up and I say, hi, this is me. This is who I am. You can pick, you put a face to the name. You have that connection that's possible there. And I can get a lot of information across to you as I'm speaking to you, right? And not only that, I'm a firm believer in body language that really presents itself, right? So you can't get that across in writing, but I can in a video. I can use some of my body language to express how I'm thinking about this concept and areas like that. So it's definitely an advantage. I'm gonna, like say, after lunch, we're gonna take a look at the OBS software and kind of give you a sense. Now this is just one piece of software. Does Todd get you guys to use, what's that software we used last year? By Wondershare. I can't remember. He hasn't given you any kind of screen capturing software to use or anything like that. He's just mostly been PowerPoint, voiceover, that kind of stuff. Okay. So
He
there.
showed us how to screen capture using PowerPoint.
Okay. There is a software package I think that he will be showing you. It's a screen capturing software to kind of do very much what OBS can do, but after I've shown him OBS, he's thinking that he may stop using that other software and just start using this primarily. So.
Do you ever let students record you themselves? Like if they said, "Can I use my phone and record what you're saying?"
Yes, there is some stipulations of the college. The same as recording any audio. If they are recording you in class, they have to fill out an ISO form. I know, more forms, but there is a release that you need to get them to do.
I had a student ask me that and it caught me off guard and I just said no, like
Yep.
I'm not comfortable with that.
And
Sorry.
and that's within your right to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have students all the time asking if they can record the audio, and I have no problem with that. But again, I'm supposed to get them to fill out a form. It basically just says you're not allowed to share this. You can't put it on YouTube without my permission. You can't do that kind of stuff. But you can use it for your own personal use, no problem. But now they don't have to because I'm recording it, right? And as of this year, I think I've live streamed every class.
Wow.
So they don't need to do that anymore. They can just go back and watch it from there. So they can sit there and they can listen to me, right? So I got around to speak to the different groups, or even more just listen. You guys were doing a great job coming up with ideas. I think that's the case. If you can get together with people and brainstorm, just speak out. Geez, we saw this about video. Wouldn't it be cool if we did it here? And then somebody could build on that, or somebody can say, well, did you think of this? Maybe you should look at it from a different perspective or something. Don't let people try to pull you down. I did have an instructor at one point come out to find that he was very nervous about being in front of a camera. So his mind thought, well, if Chris is doing it and the students like it, then the students are going to want me to do it, and I don't want to be in front of the camera. So I'm going to rain on Chris's parade, and I'm going to try to squash this before it comes, right? So be prepared for things like that. Hopefully it doesn't happen as often anymore, because back then this was kind of newer technologies and things like that. But
I find even now, like some people are very anchored in their ways.
yes,
And
yeah,
you
that's-
say, how about introducing one of all of
Yeah.
this, and even that is.
but that's not how we've done it before.
Oh, God, that's my least favorite sentence
Yeah.
in the whole.
Chalkboard. Yeah, no, you're right. So be prepared, but also go into it. I always go into these things too, and maybe it's just a bit of a rebel in me or something, but sometimes I'll go into thinking, should I be doing this? And then, you know what? I'm gonna do it until somebody tells me not to do it. But in the meantime, though, I'm gonna do it so well that it's gonna catch on. And then when the people come to try to slap my fingers, then I can say, well, look what I've accomplished, and look what I've done, and look at the response from the students. So before you slap my fingers, let's take a look at this and go from there. So, because I know I've had my fingers slapped before, that I've gone a little too far with what I should be doing, but in the end, it wasn't a bad thing. It's just sometimes you think maybe I should have did this in a more procedural way, and I didn't follow all the ins and outs. But what's that old saying? It's easier to ask forgiveness than beg permission or something. So I sometimes I follow that. Not all the time, but don't tell my kids that though, because I don't want them doing it.
Depends
So-
how old are they?
Yeah, 13 and 10, so they're at that prime age. So with that, keep thinking about that as you're going through this course with Todd. Even some of the content that he's telling you to put up in SAM, could you do it as a video? Could you incorporate both? Can you do something like that? How can you do that? Another thing too, and this is beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but a lot of instructors, I know I'm taking my master's, a lot of, I've been quite surprised, a lot of the professors are saying that they're going to give us a video essay option. So I can actually, instead of handing in a 10-page APA formatted report, I can hand in a 15-minute video.
I'm so glad to hear that you have professors at university that are doing that.
And I'm surprised because some of them are still, nope, I want this, I want that, I want that. So I guess I could, a little embarrassed with it, but I'll share the video. I did one for one of my courses. I offered that I could do my final in there, and I took it upon myself. So I did it and got 100% on the assignment. So I was quite happy that I could do that, and it took me a lot less time because I'm familiar with the technology and stuff, right? So I'll show you some examples after lunch of some of the videos I've done for classes and stuff like that. So we'll do that, and then when we get back, so we'll break now. When we get back around 12:30ish, something like that, we'll start looking at the OBS software and some of the things it can do, and I'll give you some examples of some of the things I've done with it, and then we'll get into some other things. We'll start talking about some student engagement, maybe some of the Microsoft products, and we'll go from there. So, I don't know about you, but I found that morning went by pretty quick.
Yeah, actually, that's good.
All right. Well, hopefully we can sail through the afternoon as well. So we'll see you back here at 12:30ish, 12:35ish, something like that, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we'll just pick up where we left off. I mentioned before the break we're going to talk about the OBS software now, and I was going to show you some examples of some videos. So I just brought up my YouTube channel here, my personal one, which is where I recorded some of the demos that I did that I've done in the past for some students, and then I have another channel that I have set up on my same account now specifically for my computer networking technology program that I teach in. So just as an example, this is a video I did for my flipped classroom. I just say view it right on. Oh, view on YouTube.
Okay, welcome to our video on virtualization. This week we're going to be introducing the concepts of virtualization.
This was me floating head. I did this with a green screen.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to play around with this technology, so with my wife's permission, I painted a wall down in the basement off to the side. You can go out and you can buy like a $300 or $400 paint that is perfect for green screen, or you can go to the Home Depot and you get, I think it was called Crisp Apple, which is almost identical to what they use in production, and it only costs about $7 for that same can of paint. So I painted a large square in my basement, and I've got some other videos to kind of show you that, but I was able to do that. So what the software does is it basically just takes the green that's behind me, makes it transparent, and I'm just a layer on top of this video, so it makes me look like I'm standing in front of it, but I'm not. Same almost as any news kind of, when you do the news today, or the weather, you see them standing in front of the maps and everything. It's just a green screen in the background, and they do that. So what I did, you can see this video is 23 minutes in length. This is the same content that I would normally talk about in pretty much a full hour in class. So what I had them do is watch this video. When they came to class, I had some activities set up to talk about this content, to reiterate it, answer any questions that they might have, and then we were now prepared to do the labs in the following days. So that's just one example of that. You can see there's multiple different ones that I have. Some of these, here's the Powtoon. Oh, I guess there's a little button right there.
There's some like video apps that you can convert some images to a green screen. Like you can create a green screen as well.
Yes.
And add a different background.
Yes.
Where you were.
In live, like almost as you do it, yeah. It's incredible what's out there now. I won't go through the whole thing, but it's pretty cool. You can do these online. It's a free software. You can create an account. You do all this. You just choose how you want the animations to come in, where you want them to move, write out what you want to do. So what we did is we were doing a PowerPoint presentation, and this is how we started it. So it kind of grabbed everyone's attention, brought everybody in, and then in the end, basically, what we just did here is let's turn it over to the group to explain. And then it faded out, and then we were there to pick up where it left off. So that's another example of using it. Trying to find, I got a lot of personal stuff on here too, but I was trying to find something where I did like just a tutorial, step by step. This is my 10-year-old. She wanted to do a newscast for her friends. So I did a green screen with her in the basement.
So today's news is sun and clouds, but the moon is still up. And
So basically, we're in our basement. There's a green screen behind her, and in the software, I just put something I found on Google image search, like just as kind of a background on there. It pretty straightforward. It seems like it's difficult to do, but it's actually scary how easy it is to do. Done some other stuff here, tutorials. This is the one I told you I did for my master's course. It's an 8-minute. I won't go through the whole thing. Thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to do that news kind of expose type approach to it?
Oh, nice. Almost like the Daily Show.
Yeah, that whole area. So I had a little microphone at home for the boom mic. I wish I didn't have to use that, but the basement was kind of noisy in areas. The furnace would turn on every once in a while, so I wanted to make sure I had that. And then what really made Todd laugh the first time I showed him was the where I pretend that I'm going to another camera. So I turn right there, but there was no other camera. I just simply turned, stopped the video, and then turned this way, and then started the video again, and then I just moved it in a different angle, so I was able to do that. I had very bright lights in my face at the time. It was hard to see the text that I had put up there. Plus, you can also see my eyes kind of going back and forth reading, so
Not too much, actually.
it gets worse at some parts. But then I was able to splice in, like I did a little video at the college. Certain areas that I want to focus in on from the research and stuff like that. So I was able to do that, focus in. APA formatting in a video was a challenge because there was no references pages. I did some student interviews based on it.
So what did you film with?
My phone.
With your phone, yeah.
Yeah. All the video was done just with my iPhone. Just in a tripod, just holding it steady. So I did that, and then there's goes to some graphics that I wanted to display, and then I thought it'd be kind of funny for the references page at the end.
Yeah.
I just did references as the scroller in the APA formatted. So in the end, I was a little nervous, thinking, you know, if I get a pass mark, I'm fine with that. But I ended up doing quite well. So, and what I also show, just as an example. Oops. This is the actual raw footage. Getting on my mark, turning on my microphone, and then stepping in. So using the software, I just removed all the green and then had the other background in behind, and that's the video from the actual video itself. So it was pretty.
So you edited in OBS.
This one I actually used an old version of Adobe Premiere.
Okay.
They released Premiere version 2 as a free product a couple of years back, so I used that. But you could use OBS, and you could do it live in OBS, where this I have to actually edit it after the fact. But OBS could actually be done live. So those are just some examples. Again, they're not the best in the world, but they're just some ideas and thoughts of how you can go across. So OBS Studio, the open broadcaster software, is free software, and you know where it came from? Gaming. Gamers wanted a way to record themselves playing video games, stream it to YouTube so that thousands of people can sit there watching somebody else play a video game, and then they can put ads on it and stuff like that. And these YouTubers make millions of dollars a year having people watch their game feeds. So somebody came up with this product, released it for free. It's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux-based computers. This website, and it's just basically obsproject.com, you can download the fully installable version of it. Now, the reason I'm kind of mentioning this, on Holland College-based computers, computer services or IT services has it locked down that we cannot install software on our computers for good reasons. Right? We can't just let everybody install whatever they want on their computers. Could be riddled with viruses, things like that. So the reason I'm mentioning this is if you tried to download this into your classroom or onto your work computer, probably going to get an error. So you either have to get computer services down or IT services down to install it for you, or I found a little loophole. Again, nobody slapped my fingers yet, but in here I put a link to a portable edition of OBS. What does portable mean? Portable means that you can run the software without installing it. So what I have is I have a USB drive on my E drive. If I go into here on my E drive, you'll notice I have a couple of portable software packages that I use for some of my classes. Notepad, OBS is there, Putty, and TeamViewer. But if I go under the OBS portable folder, there's the program. I double click the program and it runs. So I don't have to install it. I can just run it right from the USB drive. So what you need to do is go to the OBS portable, download it. I think it comes as a zip file, like a compressed file. You decompress it to your thumb drive or to your desktop or wherever you want to go, and then you can run it. So Computer Services says we can't install software,
So you can run.
but you can run portable versions of that software without having to install it. So what I do, like I said, I've got a USB drive that's mounted onto my little rig. I have the software there, so no matter where I go, the software comes with me. But you could just put it on a regular USB drive. If you know you're going to be always using the same computer in the classroom, I use several different classrooms throughout the week. So I'm moving from room to room. But if you're using the same room, you could just simply just copy this portable version to the desktop and then just leave it there. So makes it so much easier. If you know you're in the same room all the time, you could leave your camera there. You leave everything set up. You can open the software when you need it and just click and away it goes. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit about the software, but I realized that I'm recording the screen right now using the software, so I can't do everything that I would normally do because I'm in the middle of recording. So it's live right now. If I did do that, I'd have to stop the recording, which is kind of defeating the purpose. So I'm just going to kind of go through the software just a little bit to give you a sense of how it works. Then what I would suggest, if you're interested in the software, download it somewhere and play around with it. There are 1,000,005 different YouTube channels out there that can show you exactly how to set things up and do everything. But I'm going to give you some of the basics, some of the things that I found. So the way this is set up right now, maybe I'll maximize that a little bit better. So here's the entire screen. What I'm seeing in this window as a total is what the actual stream is looking like, or the recording that's looking at like. So if you actually went to YouTube right now under that link that I sent out, you'd be seeing what's in this black area. Okay. What I've decided to do, and if I click on it, you'll see green lines go around the edge, or red line go around the edges. I've decided what I wanted was the entire desktop in this area sized to that amount, and I can resize it, I can move it around, I can do what I want. I have the USB camera just down here in the corner off to the side. Above it, I put in the date and time. I always like having the date and the time in the recording because then I can index it and I can figure out which video is which. If I do 5 videos in one day, makes it a lot easier to tell which video was which. Gets a little confusing if you don't. And then right below that, you don't see it, but I left a little area in here for the YouTube chat. So if somebody was sending chats through YouTube, they would actually appear here in the recording as well. So that goes in there. So what I do is I design this the way I want it to look. So down here I have a scene, and we'll talk more about scenes in a moment in the lower left. And it's called Room 201. I don't know why I called it that at the time, but this is my main scene. Then I'm going to set up my scene the way I want it. I can resize these if I want, move them around. Maybe I want mine to look more like that, right? It doesn't really matter which way I have it. I just design it the way I want it to look when it's going to be streaming. Okay? So I can move things around, I can add layers, I can do what I need to do. Now, keep that in mind that it's in layers. So the desktop is a layer, the USB camera is a layer, the time, date is a layer, and I can keep adding them. These are here. These are the layers or under the sources. So I've got video capture device. That's my USB camera. My desktop obviously up there. Date and time, live comments are showing in there. Okay. I can add more layers here if I want, just by clicking the little plus symbol. I've got an audio input capture. So maybe I have something that I want to add audio, like music background or something like that. A browser. This gets a little complicated, but I can add a browser to my display if I want. Maybe I want to show a piece of a website or something as part of my layers that I have up there. Display capture is the display itself, like the entire screen. So when you first go into it, there won't be anything in here. If you want to do your display, like your entire screen, you would choose the display capture. Okay? An image, maybe I just want to add an image. I can browse for an image file. So maybe you have a logo or something that you want to use. There's probably nothing on this computer. No. Anyway, you would find the picture that you want and then you can bring it in. So most people would put like a logo or something on there that they can put up on the screen. Any types of media source scenes. The video capture is the USB that we talked about before. This one here is interesting, the window capture. Window capture allows me to choose, and I can name it. Let's say this is, what do I want? Oh, I got OneNote open there. What if I just want to record OneNote? So I'm just going to call it OneNote. And then it's going to ask me, what do I want to capture? And here are all the different things that are currently opened on my computer right now. So I would look for the OneNote right here. And you can see by the preview, it's just showing me OneNote. So I click OK, and now I have a OneNote, oops. I have a OneNote layer that's being recorded. Which is really cool because no matter what I do, if I'm on my computer and I'm moving screens, I'm doing different things, it's always going to record the OneNote. It's not going to record me moving around and doing stuff, only OneNote. So I can capture individual screens if that's what I want to do. Again, I can't show you the power of what I would do. Normally what I would do to record a video is I would create a scene for each of the software that I'm currently recording. So let's say I'm recording Word, Internet Explorer, and SAM. I would create a scene for each of them. Then I would go into each scene and I would add a window capture for each of those software packages. Then, well, maybe I could do it. This is going to mess up the live stream because the live stream is going to go blank. So if you're watching the live stream later or whatever, the live stream right now is going to actually just fall off. It's going to look dark. But I'm going to create a new scene. We'll just call it scene 2. And now I'm on scene 2. My screen is black. Right now the live stream is black because that's what it's showing. I'm going to add that same window capture again, which is the OneNote. And I'm going to make that the full screen. It's not fully getting in there, but well, it's close enough. So now that I have 2 scenes, I can go back and forth between the different scenes. It fades back and forth between them. So this is the first part of my presentation. I'm doing some discussions. I'm talking. I say, okay, let's go now into the OneNote program. And this brings me into OneNote. What the people at home are seeing is what's in this square. So they're seeing OneNote. They're not seeing my YouTube video or my webcam anymore. They're not seeing the screen. They're not seeing the date and time and all that. They're seeing this screen. So I can create a scene for everything that I want them to see, and I can just easily move back and forth between the two of them. that transition. It's a very nice, slow kind of fade transition, and just goes back and forth like that. Now, if they're at home and they're watching this, and now I'm like, I just minimized OBS, and I'm moving, and I'm doing all this stuff, the people at home are not seeing me doing all this stuff. All they're seeing is OneNote right now. That's the only thing that they're seeing. They're not seeing me move around. So I can maneuver, I can do things, and they only see that. So it gives you that capability. So that's where scenes and sources come in. And again, what I would recommend is you just take some time to play with that. Create a scene, add the pieces that you want for that scene, add your second scene, and add the pieces that you want for that second scene, and maneuver and manipulate like that.
And the scenes could be videos.
The scenes could be pre-brought up videos ready to go that you just move back and forth and you're ready to hit play on them.
Right.
Or it could be a spreadsheet or a website or whatever you want.
Gotcha.
As far as I know, there's no limit to how many scenes you can have. I guess if you have too many, you get a little confused yourself.
Right.
But now what I even heard, you can get a foot pedal that allows you to connect to your computer through USB and allow you to change scenes. So you're not even disruptive. You still have your mouse and keyboard, and when you're ready to go from one scene to the other, you click the foot pedal and it moves you over and do all that. So I could see that important for gamers. The gamers are in the middle of their game, but they want to take their game and kind of shrink it up into the corner and then have a video of themselves, or maybe their sponsors or something like that, and then they move back and forth between that, right? So it's all there, it's all capable, it just takes time to play with. The great thing though, it's only an investment in your time, not your money, because it's free, right? So you do that. Audio, there's a mixer audio here. The microphone right now is my blue microphone, my Blue Ice microphone. This says desktop audio. If there's a video or audio playing on my computer, I can have that audio sent across the stream as well.
Right.
So right now the people are hearing me through the microphone, but I have desktop audio muted. So if I tried to play a video, we might hear it here, but the stream will not hear that video. So I can unmute it and I can change the volume levels here if that's what I want to do, so I can choose that. So one rule of thumb, always make sure when you open OBS, make sure that you can see your voice moving here. If you don't, that means your audio is not working for some reason, and if you start your stream, they're not going to be able to hear you. Okay? I had that happen once or twice on some of my audio. For some reason it got switched to a different input, and although I said record, like the audio, it was recording the wrong thing, which was just dead air. So unfortunately those videos were pretty much useless. If you can't hear me talk, then it was pretty much useless in that case. The scene transitions over here are basically just when I move back and forth. Well, I should have had it on this screen, because then I was talking about this program. This is just the fade or the transition effects in between the different scenes. Over here are your controls, and you can see it says stop streaming, start recording, studio mode, and settings. Now I can go through a few of these, but because I'm recording, I can't really go in and do too much. But basically what I do now is as soon as I get into class, I plug in my rig, I open the software. Sometimes when I go from computer to computer, depending on the resolution of the monitors, this changes a little bit. Sometimes this might be, I walk in and it's like this, or it's like this. So I just got to make sure I resize it to the place that I want. Sometimes my USB video is missing, so I just have to remove it from this list, add it to the list again, and then it's there. If this is the same classroom I use all the time, I won't have to to do that. It's gonna be standard every time I go there. It's because I'm moving from room to room to room to room. It's just getting confused with some of the settings. So I just make sure this looks all the way that I want, and then I just hit start streaming. But how do you stream it? How do you get it to YouTube? This is a little more in depth than I was thinking we would get into today, but if I go under the settings and I click on the stream, there is a bunch of different services. I can't click on it right now because I'm streaming, but there's a bunch of different services that are here. Most of them are gaming services.
Right.
But YouTube is one of them that I can choose. Okay. It's asking for a stream key. When I create a streaming event in YouTube, it will give me a streaming key. The key is very important to keep confidential. Anyone who has that key can stream to your channel. So it's almost like they have your username and password and they can stream to your channel without your authorization. And if you've got a bunch of different followers, those followers are going to be watching their stream, right? And who knows what they could do with it. So you can see here that it's covered up. I can show it. Well, I could show it if I was able to. It shows the stream. Where do I get that number? Well, if I go back into my YouTube, let's say for this particular stream, I can go under the live advanced settings, and there's something here called ingestion. So when I come in here and I create a brand new stream for being able to stream, and I go under the ingestion settings, it creates a stream key for me right here. So all I need to do is now copy this and put it into the OBS or type it in. And then whenever I hit start streaming in OBS, it streams it to this one. It knows how to do that. Okay. So to do that, let's come back out to where the videos are. If I want to create, here are the different streams that I have set up. I have 2 from my program, and this is the stream that I created for today. If I want to create a brand new stream, all I need to do is go under other features, live events. So here's the one that's live right now, but I want to just click on new live event. I go in and I give it the information that I want. So test, when do I want that? I can give it a description. Public should be left on for now. If you put this as an unlisted stream, it's very limited in who can actually watch the live stream. So typically I'll leave this public, but I will restrict the recording afterwards. Okay? And again, it's where you're posting those live events that kind of restricts who can watch them and who can't. So I typically leave it as public on there. Under the advanced settings, what I want to do is I want to come down here to the auto start, which means that automatically start the event when you start sending data. That means in OBS, when I hit that button, activate this live stream automatically. Okay, this one's not turned on by default, so turn that on. And then over here, what I normally do, automatically make the archive unlisted once the stream is ended. So where it was public before, I'm going to say automatically make this archive unlisted. So the only people who can watch it are the ones that I share the link with to be able to get that. So that's it. That's all there is to setting up a live stream in YouTube. I create a new one, make sure that's checked off. I give it the date and time and all of that. And now it's done. So I create the new event. Okay. So here I want to get that live key. It's a brand new key for this event. I just say, give me a single use stream key, and there's the new key. So I copy that and I put it in OBS. And now when I hit start streaming in OBS, it streams up to my YouTube channel. Okay? So I'm going to just kind of quit at that point. So I don't want to save that. It's pretty straightforward. Now, what I do is I've created, this is one of my streams here. I created this stream. It says April 10th, but I actually created back in September. I think I made some changes to it, so it automatically changed the date. But you create the stream, you take that key and you put it in your OBS, and that's it. You're done. Every day you come into class, all you have to do is hit start stream, and it streams it to that. When you say stop stream, it takes it from a live, archives it, and puts it down into this list and puts it as unlisted. So you really don't have to do anything after you create that stream. You create the stream, get the key, put it in OBS, and now your responsibility is you start stream, stop stream, start stream, stop stream. And every time I hit stop, it makes a new live replay down here that I can come and I can get the link and I can share that out with the students. So here's all the different ones past a little while. Okay. Those are all examples. This might have been one of the ones I had the audio out on, but this is the live stream, and like I said, all I did that day is I walked in and just made sure that I plugged the device in, started OBS, hit start stream, done. And then in the end, once I got back to my office, I came in here. It was moved from the live into the archived. I got the link from the archive and I sent it out to the students, or I can post it in SAM. Now what I do, I take it a step further. I go in SAM. Do I have my SAM open? I don't think I do. Oh, I did have it open. So for instance, if I go into one of my courses here, content. Not sure if I'm violating any of Todd's rules or anything like that for layouts or anything. But what I did here is I put in that's the wrong course, sorry. Content. The first module in my SAM is the live stream. So if a student's not there that day or they just want to watch the live stream, they just come under live stream and they just hit play and they'll be able to watch it. Now, YouTube restricts some people. They can't watch it in an embedded window like this. It'll probably bring them to YouTube so they can watch it there, but regardless, it's here. And then after it's done and archived, what I normally do is I would go to the class that I did that archive in, and I would just post it here in SAM. So they can come here and they can watch the recorded version. So it goes. Okay, just pause that. But that was that for that particular day that I posted in that module. You can see this was the week before. These two, this was a kind of a 2-week module, so that's class 1 and class 2, all in the same one. Does that make sense? Am I going way too fast? Probably am. But it's the type of thing that you really kind of need to go in and play around a little bit with. But the idea here then, if you want to do the live streaming, is you have to have a YouTube account. If you have a YouTube account, which you probably do you have a Gmail account? If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube account. It's automatic. You just go in, you set up a channel. It'll ask you a few things about your channel. Maybe you already have one. But once you have that YouTube channel, you just go in and you just create a new live event. Gives you that key. Take that key, post it into OBS, and then you can live stream.
Would you recommend having, like I have a personal Gmail account, would you recommend having a separate Gmail account just for school?
You can, or what you can do is when you create a channel, you can actually say that I don't want this to be a personal channel.
Yeah.
I want it to be kind of almost like give it an entity on its own.
Right.
So my computer networking technology channel is actually attached to my home Gmail account, but it gives me the ability to choose which channel I want to do, and then I would only then save the videos into that channel, and then people can subscribe to that channel type thing. Now that's great, this live streaming, all this stuff, but maybe you don't want to get into the YouTube part. That's completely understandable for now. Notice here it says streaming, but right below there it's recording. So instead of me streaming it, I can just record it.
Right.
And I can record it to a file on my computer. I can save it. I can open it. I can edit it if I wanted to. I could then upload that to YouTube if I wanted to, or into SAM or wherever else I want to do. And I can do it that way too. All these same things apply, like the scenes and the layers and all of that. They're just going to be saved locally instead of streamed up to YouTube instead.
So if you want to live stream your class to people that are distant,
Yes.
you have to stream it through YouTube.
Through YouTube or another service or something
Right.
like that.
But if you just want to make a video, you can just record it.
You can just record directly, and you can do all the same things, like just choose software to record and the scenes and the transitions back and forth, save it locally, and then you can decide what you want to do with that file afterwards. You can upload it directly to SAM or to YouTube and then put a link in SAM, or email it out, whatever it is that you want to do with those videos. But it gives you that capability of doing it.
Chris, is there a browser that you recommend? I know right now how UCU won't play in Explorer, so you have to tell your students you must open in Chrome or Firefox.
That's a good question. From a security standpoint, like an IT security standpoint, Internet Explorer and YouTube are probably the least secure. Although you'll hear people say, or no, did I say YouTube? Internet Explorer and Chrome are the two least secure. Although you'll hear people say Chrome is the best that's out there and everything. I find it's one of the least secure of all of them. But certain websites will work perfectly with Internet Explorer and not Firefox or not Chrome. It's hit or miss. I personally, I use Internet Explorer or the new Microsoft Edge. That's what I use all the time. Why? Because it's already there, and I don't do a lot of web browsing myself. I do other things. But Firefox, I think, is probably the safest of all of them, and probably the most compatible with a lot of websites that are out there. So
I use Firefox almost exclusively,
Yeah.
and there's rarely, if
Rarely,
ever, any
yeah.
issues.
and that's what I would normally suggest Firefox, but it's difficult because I could say Firefox and then you try something and it doesn't work, right? So it's kind of one of those things. But
So if I'd like to set this up and I have 5 different courses and I want each course to have a different look for the videos.
Yes.
Like I'm gonna make a PNG or something with and like customize
Yeah.
my frame.
Yep.
Am I just gonna have under scenes like 15 different possible scenes like with different sources, or is there a way to have for graphic design history to have one group of scenes and sources and then another kind of OBS for
Yeah,
color theory.
I would probably create a scene for each of them,
Okay.
and you're going to stream them all to the same stream, but you would just go in then afterwards to the archive and just share the link for that particular stream for that course type thing. But I would say that would be the easiest, is to create one.
History 1, History 2.
Yeah.
Different flips.
It would be very difficult to do it any other way, really, that I could think of. The only other way would be the portable folder that you download from the website that you copy to your desktop.
Yeah.
You'd have to make 15 copies of that folder.
Or one for each course type thing.
Yeah, and then you would go into that and then run the OBS for
That
that particular one.
Okay, I can do it.
That would give you the advantage that if you wanted 15 different streams in your channel,
Yeah.
that each one of those could have its own streaming key.
Yeah.
You could do it that way too. And then I guess if you wanted, like in your History 1, you wanted multiple scenes, then you could have multiple scenes there for History 1
Yeah.
without kind of overlapping. So yeah, you could do that. It's a lot more work, I would say, but I think in the end would be easiest, like be worth the investment in time, I think. Okay. So again, there's different things, like each of these, we mentioned the green screen in here. This is my, why is my USB not running? I'm frozen there. Something happened to the camera. Oh well, I think the audio's still working, it's just the camera. So if this was like the green screen that we're talking about, I would have behind me a green screen. You would see me. Then what I can do is I can come down here and I can go under the filtering. Where is that? Filters. There is a... I can't remember the exact place. Color key, I guess. I can choose if it's a green screen or blue screen or whatever, and then I can adjust some of the settings. Then that should remove the green from it, and I apply that filter to the video source, and then that should allow for backgrounds to come in. So again, go to YouTube and just say, how do I use green screen in OBS? You'll get 1,500 tutorials on exactly how to do it and why to do it and such. But it's an amazing package, amazing recording package, and I've already suggested it to a few people that are not very technically inclined, and basically just said, if you just want to record what's on your screen, just go into OBS, create one source, and that's your desktop source, and then go click record.
And that's it.
Simple for just recording a very first video. Add the desktop, resize it to the size that you want, which is probably full screen. You probably want to do that full screen, and then just hit record, do what you want to do with your audio enabled and all that. Press stop record, then you've got a file there with the recording on it. Very, very easy. But it gives you the ability to do more if you want. You can add multiple sources. You can do something else like this scene here for OneNote. I could add OneNote on this side. I can add another Windows capture. And I could choose maybe Microsoft Edge. It's not coming up right at the moment. But I could choose a second software package. So now both of them are running on my screen at the same time. What is Edge? Should be that. But I can record two different windows at the exact same time. If there's different things happening on each of those, and then I can just move back and forth between them, and the user doesn't see me doing all this stuff. Like, all they see is this window, and all they see is this window, and that's all that's being streamed out or recorded to them. So I can manipulate, I can maneuver whatever way that I want to do that. Have that set up. I'd be willing to come back. I know this is very kind of a quick overview of it. I'd be willing, I can tell Todd too that I could come back at another time, spend another hour with you guys or something to go through the OBS software. If you want, I could come in on a Saturday afternoon or something, and Saturday morning, and just take an extra hour to step through, and we could try doing some videos together or something like that. So I'll talk to Todd and see what we want to do. As long as that makes somewhat sense of what the software is. And again, because it's free, all it takes is a little bit of your time to go in and play around with it. And because it's so popular, there's hundreds of tutorials out there. You just watch a couple of YouTube videos and then you try some of the things that they're talking about. Some people do some really neat things, like you're mentioning, like having backgrounds and logos and screens and stuff. Some make some beautiful placeholders for videos and stuff like that. It's crazy what's out there, but it's really doesn't take too long to kind of narrow it down.
Do you know if there's any like simplistic animation software that will take your voiceover and like make a character that talks your voice?
Good sock puppet.
Yeah, good.
I remember reading something that there is something soon, or there was a package that somebody was working on, but I don't know what its availability is like or when it is coming out. But no, nothing that I know of. No,
Just curious.
it's I think it's getting closer, but it's still difficult to make those animated characters type thing. Yeah. Any questions on any of that? And again, I know I threw that at you really quickly, and if you're sitting there thinking, that's cool, but I really have no idea what you just said, I'd understand. That's perfectly fine. What we're doing here today is more just sharing ideas, sharing kind of what can be done, and then if you really want to take it further, then at least you've got some idea where you can kind of get started. There's I could spend the whole day in OBS, right? And we wouldn't be able to cover anything else that we have done. And maybe that, like I said, maybe I could come back and spend an hour or two just getting some videos done. Maybe closer to the end when you're ready to create some of your final projects and things like that. Maybe I could come in and spend an hour or two to help out again. Feel free to email me any questions too. In the address book, just Chris Arsenault in the address book, or crarsenault@hollandcollege.com. If I can help in any way, I would love to be able to help. Any questions on that? Okay, so not sure what happened to my video here. Just going to remove that device. And I'm going to add the, whoops, video capture, choose my USB device, and I'm back. It might have been as I was maneuvering through there, I may have canceled something or clicked on something. So, all right. So the next thing that I want to talk about in our oh, where did I put that? I was talking about student engagement, and I'm gonna go through this quite quickly because, like I said, it usually takes me. I do sessions for about 2 hours on student engagement. We have some activities and things like that, but I just want to talk a little bit about that section with you. Todd asked if I could share a few of the ideas that I've kind of come up with. This really has nothing to do with video, although video is a tool that you can use to kind of help those students kind of achieve those levels of engagement. But he just said if we could kind of talk about that, because he's going to bring you into some methodologies of how to engage, especially distance students, because it's difficult. And as I'm about to talk to you a little bit about the concept that I work on as sparking engagement, has a lot to do between a student and instructor relationship. It's going to be very difficult to form a relationship like that with a distance student that you never get to see. And we kind of mentioned that this morning, right? So the overall concept here is that students these days, and maybe not even just these days, but students these days are typically unengaged from the curriculum. And what I started this a few years back because I'd noticed a trend that it seemed like more and more students really just didn't want to be here, didn't want to interact, didn't want to do anything. And it's very frustrating that you have a student that pays to be here, sitting there, doesn't want to participate, doesn't want to do anything, doesn't want to do anything, but then just kind of expects that, well, I should be passing because I'm here. I'm like breathing oxygen, so does that not give me the ability to pass? That may have got them through some of their lower levels of school, but it's definitely not going to get through here. So I started kind of researching a little bit, and one area that sometimes I feel like I'm a little too blunt with is, and I said this the other day in a session right in front of the director of programs, and I hope Patricia didn't take it the wrong way, but my thoughts were, whose job is it to engage students? And my answer to that was, not mine. I was hired because I'm a subject matter expert, and because I was hired to set up curriculum, to deliver this curriculum, to assess, to do all that kind of stuff. But is it really my job now to sing and dance in front of these students to try to engage them? So after I had these thoughts, I thought, well, there's probably more to it than that. It's not just a singing and dancing issue, right? So I started doing some deeper kind of reading into it. I'm doing my Master's of Education right now, and every course that I'm in that I have to do a research project, I pick engagement. It's some form of it that I can kind of apply it to those courses. And the more I look into it, the more I realize it's so complex on so many different levels that the answer that I'm starting to see for engagement is that there is no answer. It is unbelievably complex. And if I'm an instructor and I have, let's say, 20 students, each one of those 20 students are going to be at their own individual engagement level, no matter what I do. Right? I can be the best instructor in the world and have the best curriculum in the world, and I have 20 different students in my room that are all engaged at different levels. Tomorrow, I come into a different course that I teach, different time, same students, and now I have a completely different level of engagement. The content that I'm teaching can affect the engagement. Even me, I know, even me, but if I had a bad night's sleep, it affects my students' engagement. If I'm going through some personal things in my life, it can affect my students' engagement, right? If the content that I'm teaching is out of date, maybe I'm an amazing instructor and the students are there to learn, they're ready to go, and I don't have my content up to date, that affects engagement, right? So what I did, I don't have everything right here. Do I have any markers? Yeah. I don't need much room anyway. So what I found this on the internet. I don't take credit for this part, but I found something of a Venn diagram that looked something very similar to this. Teacher, content, student. I didn't draw that very well because I'm not getting the overlap that I want here. Okay. So with a Venn diagram, what it does is basically, that's going to bother me. I'm going to draw it. A Venn diagram is a way of taking multiple different aspects, overlapping them, and you can see that there's reactions to that overlapping. I'm going to make it a bigger overlapping one now. That's better. Teacher, content, student. So when I have a teacher, the content, and the student all coming together, typically I will have an overlapping of the teacher and the content circles here, and this is my expertise. Okay? So when I overlap the content and the teacher together, what I should see is that there's an expertise in there. Does that make sense? When the teacher and student comes together, there's a relationship. When the student and content come together, there's relevancy. So when I look at this, a student looks at the content and says, do I really need to know this? Is this important? If I'm going to invest my time and money, is the content appropriate for what I'm doing, and is it good content? The student will also look at the teacher, and there's a relationship there of kind of like trust. So the student is going to look at the teacher and say, do I trust this person? Do I believe this person is looking out for my best interests? And not only that, do I really believe that this person is an expert in this field? Like, are they really really good at this, or are they just making this all up, right? So there is that relationship in between there. And then, as I mentioned, when the teacher and content come together, it's the expertise. Is that teacher really good at that content, or are they just like using somebody else's content and trying to, like I've heard one person say, I just read a day or two ahead of the students. I'm not really an expert at this. I'm just a little bit ahead of the students. So you get those aspects. So these circles move. They float. And as the teacher becomes better at the content and creates good content, those circles overlap each other at a greater amount. And as I get to know the students and they get to know me, I create a better relationship, and hopefully they trust me, that I'm there to try to help them, that I really want what's best for them, and that I do know what I'm talking about. Based on my history and my experiences and stuff like that, I really know what I'm talking about. Then the student looks at the content, and the more that they start to buy into that content, maybe even based on their relationship with me, and they know that I made the content, then they start to kind of overlap the content a little bit more. And if you can get all of those circles overlapping, this is where you get engagement. It's that place right in the middle. Now, I mentioned earlier that you have 20 students. You could have 20 different levels of engagement. It's because this circle that's here could be out here, outside of that mix altogether, or I wish I had my other board because I can do this. I have a smart board. I can drag these circles around. But if this circle shifts this way, it means that the student-teacher has a good relationship, but the student looks at the content and says, that's crap. I don't like that at all. I don't believe it. I don't think I need to know it, right? So as I shift that way, though, I start losing that engagement portion. It gets smaller and smaller. Or maybe the opposite, I think the content's fine, it's the instructor. Chris really has no idea what he's talking about. Or it gives me the impression he doesn't want to be here. It's very obvious he doesn't like his job. So this circle starts shifting this way to lose relationship there, lose that engagement. Okay? So all in all, what I was trying to get across with these sessions is that if now I take apart these circles and I start looking at them individually, how does that affect the engagement levels? Well, I think it's something that we have to do. I think we have to look at the teacher, the content, and the students separately before they can start overlapping. And I use an analogy of a relationship. So I'm going to throw some Dr. Phil at you. Concept here in a relationship, I think, personally, is that if two people want to be successful in a relationship, that they have to solidify themselves. Okay? So in a relationship, let's say with me and my wife, I have to understand myself. I have to put all of my pieces together. And if she does the same thing and we decide we want to be in a relationship, that relationship is stronger because we're two individuals kind of sharing life together, right? So that's above and beyond what we're talking about. I'm sorry to get into that. But same kind of idea here. If I want that engagement to happen, the teacher has to have all their things in place. The content has to have all their things in place. And the student has to have all their things in place. What are things? Well, I kind of hinted at a few of them earlier. The teacher, if we take a look at the teacher first, the teacher has a lot of things going on. Personal life, a history of their own education. To me, that's a big factor. When I was in high school, teachers didn't treat me very well. So that affected my education for years to come. It actually affects me as an instructor. I try to do everything that some of those teachers did not do, or I fight every day to prevent myself from acting like them, because some of them were not very nice to me, right? So I'll use those experiences in my past to make me a better instructor, better teacher. Right? So I start taking a look at this and I look at myself and say, you know what, do I love my job? If not, why? What is my professional development? Have I upgraded my skills lately? Am I staying current in the industry? Things like that. How's my home life? How's this? How's that? A lot of these pieces, and in my other presentation that I give, I actually break them down they look like puzzle pieces. And they all kind of fit together. And basically what I say is, if I can put all my pieces of the puzzle together, then I've made myself the strongest teacher that I can be. So one area like that is, I'm talking about student engagement, but one piece of this is I got to look at myself. And I have to understand, am I really doing everything I can do as a teacher? Even if I ignore the content and the student right now, am I the best teacher I can be? Then I look at my content and I basically dissect that as well. Is my content the best it can be? Is it up to date? Is it relevant? Is it boring? Sometimes our content is boring. There's no way around it. There's sometimes you got to memorize numbers and you've got to do math and things that are what people would consider dry and boring. That's understandable. But can I add some things that make it a little more dynamic? Do the students, when they see this, do they understand that this is relevant, that this is directly linked to industry, the industry that they want to someday get into? So do I go out in industry and do I get feedback? Do I invite some of those members in to talk during my classes? Could I get some of them to guest teach a module or something like that? Is my content the best that it can be? Is it up to date? Is it relevant? All of that. But as a teacher standpoint, that's basically where I'm almost done. What happens in the student circle, I have no control over. And I think that's a big part of this whole concept. Remember I said earlier, it's not my job to engage students. Well, in a way that's right, but in a way it's wrong, and I'll explain a little bit more as we get into it. But my job is to try to make sure that these two are in the best condition that it can be in. Problem is like for me, I teach 11 courses throughout the year. So each course comes with a different circle here, and it affects me in some of my pieces. Some I'm really strong on. Some I've had a lot of experience in that field. And I've done plenty of projects throughout the years to solidify my understanding of certain content. Some is somewhat new to me. I've been asked to teach those courses and I wasn't really ready. I didn't have the field experience. So that does affect some of my pieces in my puzzle, and it definitely affects out here. So I have to continue to work harder and harder on that. Do I have the professional development to be able to offer the right content from there? But then we have the student circle that hasn't even been brought into this mix yet. So what are some of the things that students are bringing with them these days? Probably a lot more than when I was a kid, that's for sure.
Their cell phones.
Their cell phones, the baggage, the antisocial behaviors caused by Twitter and social media and things like that, things that we can't even possibly comprehend. Mixed into the fact that they were probably raised by their cell phones or their TVs. Their parents didn't really spend enough time giving them the skills they need to survive in the world. They may have done everything for them, right? So we see those generations coming through and we're having a difficult time dealing with them. Their pieces of the puzzle need to be put into place before they can get that engagement. So while we're in this room, we're working on this and we're working on that, we're worried about this. So is it my job? Well, kind of. It's my job to make me the best I can. It's my job to do my part and make sure my content's the best that I can. I also think it's my job to let the student know, I'm here, I'm ready to work for you, and if you really, really want to succeed, I will do everything I can to help you. Also, I can tell them, some of these broken pieces that you have in here, college has some support for you. We have programs in place that can give you some mental health. Maybe you have a learning disability that's never been discovered yet. We can help you kind of look at that side of you, and we can help you try to put your pieces back together. But it's still the student's responsibility to do that. So once we have those together, and then that student comes to us in September, we can start overlapping these circles and we see what happens. Now, students' relationship with the teacher doesn't start right away. That builds. So are you going to get engagement in the very first week or two? Probably not what you expect. Or if you do think it's engagement, it's probably just enthusiasm. It's probably just excitement. But you'll end up finding that kind of drops off. And then as the year goes on, these two will overlap a little bit because they get to see you more often. My first year students, I only see them for one class in the first semester. I see the second years all the time, 4 or 5 classes. I get to know the second years really well. First years, not so much. So I don't have as much of a relationship there. So I can't be effective in bringing them in for the engagement portion. Do what I can, but, and there too, they're still testing the water a little bit. Is the content right? I don't know. I've never done this before. So they still don't have that access. So typically what I find then is in September, it looks more like this. And then the student is just kind of just touching the edges of those. And our job is to try to pull them in bits and pieces at a time. But some will be easier to pull in, some will be harder to pull in. Some will never come in. And it's not our fault, it's not our responsibility. We do everything we can, try to pull them in. But maybe their puzzle pieces are just broken too badly and they just can't. It's just not their time. They don't want to be here. Mommy and Daddy told me I had to pick something. I just randomly picked your course. I don't even really want to be here. I want to be a YouTube star. Make millions of dollars playing video games all day. Sure you do, buddy? Don't we all? But it's not this reality. So, does that make sense? Again, I've got like a 2-hour thing where I go through and I do all these exercises and things like that. But that's basically the gist of it. So where does that take you with the courses like you're doing with Todd? And Todd's going to talk about engaging and stuff like that. Your role will be to professionally develop yourself by taking CAE courses and possibly even going into your degree or master's later. Always keep upgrading yourself, challenging yourself, finding new things that you can bring to your role as an instructor, right? Think about how can I create better relationships with my students? There's all sorts of ways of doing that, but the biggest thing is communication. Talk to them. Tell them about these circles. Tell them about how you're just an instructor, that you're trying to do your best. Sometimes you're going to have a bad day, sometimes you're going to have a good day. But you're going to be there to help them and try to get them to where they need to be. Talk to them about your curriculum. Talk to them about here's where I'm struggling. I'm having some issues this year. I could use you guys' input to help me make a better curriculum, right? Communication is an amazing way of doing it. I've started replacing a lot of my assignments where they have to write reports and submit reports for marking. I've started replacing that with one-on-one interviews. I sit down and I talk to them and I ask them questions. I give them feedback instantly. Instead of reading their report, writing all their feedback into the margin, sending that back to them and hoping that they understood what I meant when I wrote that feedback. I sit down and talk to them. Ask them how they're doing. What did you think of this assignment? Where'd you go? Sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but in the end it really does kind of, it's an investment because it gives me time back. Because I'm not sitting at a desk marking for hours and hours and hours. I'm giving them instant feedback that they can take with them. Plus, it really helps with this relationship. They can see that I really care. It's hard to see if your instructor cares when all they're reading on your report is good work, right? But if I can say that to them, I'm really impressed at your results here. You did a great job, and I can really see that you understand this content. Right? It goes a long way. And then the more they end up trusting us, the more they'll inherently trust our content. Well, I trust Chris. Chris made the content, so I should trust the content. Right? That's my thoughts anyway. So again, that's it in a very, very quick nutshell on engagement. So that's the way I approach all of my stuff now. When I'm looking at making things engaging, the first things that I look at is everything accurate in the content first. I'm not thinking about adding like a Jeopardy game to one of my classrooms. I don't see that as engagement. That can help with my having fun games and things like that. Can help with my relationship with the students a little bit. But I don't see that as an engagement factor, right? I look at my content and says, is it where it should be? If I don't feel comfortable in my content, then I'm going to work on that as hard as I can. Then I look at myself. Am I the instructor that I need to be? Have I got the right professional development? If I feel like I'm struggling in professional development, I'm falling behind in my field, I need to go to my manager and say, something needs to change. I need more time to professionally develop, to reach out to industry. Maybe I need to go back to industry for a year, take a secondment or something. Go back to industry and make myself a better expert at this content, and then I'll be a better teacher that way. Once I get those two down, then I can start looking at the students. Welcome to Holland College. I'm Chris. I do everything that I can help you do to succeed. Right? And then hopefully that invites them in. Anyway, so a lot of this stuff, like I didn't invent these Venn diagrams. I found them. A lot of my research, which I didn't find, was tearing the circles apart and kind of analyzing the circles themselves, and then wondering how do they overlap each other, and how can we help those circles overlap, and what causes them to repel if there's problems. Right? So that's part of it.
It's interesting to see, because I've experienced it, where you've lost the trust of the student.
Mhm.
They suddenly don't trust you for whatever reason.
Yes.
And you can see them physically
Shut
put
down.
a wall down.
Yep.
Yeah, just disengage.
And it can be almost anything.
Yeah.
It can be just parts of that. And again, like I said, you can have the best relationship in the world with these students, but if your content is not up to date and accurate, it's going to disengage them. Chris is a good guy, but what he's teaching is crap.
Or even the materials, like the
Or-
student manual or
Yeah,
textbook
yeah.
that you're using, if they think it's like not useful.
They pull back, they withdraw. So what do we do about those kind of things? Those are things that we can handle, we can address. If a student had a bad teacher, or maybe their loved one is going through a bout of health problems right now, there's not much I can do there. I can offer my support. I can say, you know what, those assignments that are due next week, you can take a little extra time to do it. Right? I can do things like that, but I can't make that stuff go away. And I shouldn't say, tough, deal with it. Get your assignment in by Friday or you get a 0. Right? I could do that, but that's not going to help them at all. And another big discussion we had the other day is students that are failing, like, do we work so hard to bring those failing students in, or do we just do what we can and we let them fail? As far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with failing students. Never had a problem with it. But keep in mind they're failing themselves. You're not failing them. They're failing themselves. As long as you've worked with them and you've told them you're falling behind, you've missed this many classes, I'm concerned, at this point you should be here, but you're way back here. As long as they're informed and they continue that same attitude towards the work, then you've done everything you can, and they failed themselves. I had a conversation with a student this year. He told me, you failed me. I said, I did everything I could to pass you. You failed yourself. And he was livid, yelling at me, freaking out. Came back the next week, apologized profusely, said, I've never failed anything in my life. This really, really rocked my world. But he shook my hand and he said, I think I needed that. So he said, I'll see you next year. So let them fail if that's what they want. But you can't just say, you just can't ignore them either, right? You've got to do what you can do. You got to document it. You've got to talk to them. You've got to make sure that they know where they're at. Because then there's other ramifications that can come from that. Somebody who fails and didn't know that they were in that desperate of a place, they can appeal and they can go through a process. And I'll tell you, when it comes to a student appeal, if you don't have all your ducks in a row, the student will win the appeal and it won't make you look very good. So just document and discuss and all that stuff. That's above and beyond this not your CAE Saturday class that you signed up for, but that's just some of the observations that I had. Does it make sense? Things to think about?
You said you had like a whole 2-hour presentation on
Yes.
this. Like, who do you give that presentation to? Like,
Uh,
how is that?
Basically, it started when I was working with Jennifer Cannell and Kim Gillis in the Curriculum Services Department. I told them what I was doing in my CAE, and we kind of chat, and they said, would you be interested in kind of talking about this? So we did a series just the other day as well, like a round table discussion, just of people getting together and talking about this. So I presented what I found, presented this kind of idea. We had like huge discussions on what some people are doing to solidify some of these pieces and areas. So I think this is something most people, it makes perfect sense, right? I think when I was up here and you heard me say things, it's like, well, that makes sense. I think it's a bunch of little things that nobody's really thought of like all together, right? But one thing that, like I said, that really, really threw me off about this was we kind of feel like it's our responsibility to do this song and dance to keep people engaged. But that's really not where engagement comes from anyway. So I was asked to do a couple of those sessions. What's her name? Bridget McKenna from that department sent out a link the other day with a capture. I lecture captured that event that we did the other day. So the whole 2 hours is available as a recording. So any staff should have got that. So you can go back through your emails from Bridget or Jennifer. I think Jennifer Cannell sent that out. Problem is I used a lapel the other day. It was a new lapel mic that I didn't know much about. So I had the volume up way too loud. So as you hear in there, when I did my test, it was like test, 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 and it was a good level. But then when I started talking to the group, you can hear it's distorting a little bit. Kind of throws me off a little bit. But anyway, so it's available out there. But it's something, again, I'm not going to stand up here and say I'm an expert at any of this and that I know how to fix everyone's problems or whatever. It's more of, here's some ideas. Why don't you think about those ideas and crunch your own ideas and think about that and talk to other people in your department about those ideas, and maybe you can spark something to help the students along. So again, how do I take engagement and how do I bring it into the classroom, especially an online course? That's a really good question. As you noted, these circles, especially between the teacher and student, was a little bit easier if I get the chance to sit down with those students on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and chat with them. How do you create a relationship with students that you'll never get to meet, or an online course only? That's difficult. Maybe creating those intro videos can go a long way. Encourage maybe what we would normally call office hours. You could do a online office hours to let them know that you'll be on a chat line or maybe a Skype video that, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. I'll be online from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. If anybody has any questions, you can chat through this window or you can Skype me or something like that. So you're creating some relationships that way. Obviously, through different means than normal. I'm not sure I would agree that Skype is a way of promoting relationships, but it's better than nothing, I guess. But increasing those kind of things. yeah, using videos to describe the course, talk about the benefits of having the skills from this course, where you think once they get out in industry, these skills that you're learning with me would be great to be in this scenario or this scenario or something like that. Maybe interview somebody from your industry. You and somebody from your industry, just a quick one-on-one discussion, but record that as a video and post that, so that you're showing that you're going out to industry and you're interviewing people to see what skills do you want my students to have. They're answering and you're putting it into your content to show that you care about them, plus here's the answers that they had. So there's a few different ways of doing that and approaching that. But I think like the more communication you offer to these students, the better relationship there will be. And then hopefully you can pull those students in as well into the circle. We'll take a quick break. And then we'll come back and I'm going to do some Microsoft stuff. Primarily the OneNote is what I'm going to focus on. And then we'll be done. Yeah, 10 is fine. We'll that way we can get back at it. Oh, I think my camera's gone off again. Strange. I forgot to ask Todd if he takes the attendance too. But I guess. Trying to remember everyone's names. There was a Gordon here.
Dominique,
Right.
Susan,
There.
Sandra.
It's Barbara.
I don't know who Barbara is.
You haven't seen Barbara yet.
Mike and Marion. Michael Thomas down the bottom.
Oh, right there.
Right bottom.
And Marion? Yep.
Michelle, Sylvia, Cindy, I don't know.
Is Michelle Oliver, is that Michelle from up West Prince?
Yeah.
I know. I thought I had some CAE courses with her before. Maybe she
I think
stopped
she's been, yeah, I think she's
stopped the
been plugging
program
away
and
for a
came
while.
back.
Cause she stopped to do her MBA.
And
We don't know who that is. I think she's, no, she wouldn't be an instructor, right? She's listed as a student.
I did some CAEs with a Barbie barber.
Did
She
you?
went by the name Barbie. I wonder, is that her?
Must be.
Again, she must be just kind of plugging away at it.
JS, the photography program that was canceled, is back as a 1-year certificate
Yeah.
for photography and videography.
Oh,
So they're going to be doing
Okay.
much of that stuff.
What program do you teach in?
Graphic design.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Took over for Sandy.
Hmm?
You took over for Sandy?
That's
or,
right.
or yeah, April.
Yeah.
Able to go for Nigel.
For
and
Nigel, yeah.
Sandy, that's
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, excellent.
This is where I'm excited because our students, if you're familiar with our studio, it's first year and second year, and we're all sharing one room.
Yes.
8 hours a day, every day of the school year, we're all together.
Yes.
So to think of a different way to deliver things so it's not just me again,
Yeah.
and to think of different ways we can do our critiques. I'm thinking of taking graphic design history and trying to do it as an online course where I'm I'm right over there.
Yeah.
Everything they do in the course
Yep.
is
Yep.
so it's one less thing that they have to like interact with me with. You know what I mean? Because I have them for
That's
3 or 4 other classes.
I know exactly what you mean. I have my second years. In first semester, I have them for 4 courses, and the next semester, I have them for 5. So we get together, and honest to goodness, we all come in the room, and somebody just says, "What course is this?"
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, I don't know, let's just pick one, and we'll just go with it, really. 'Cause so it does almost get tedious that we see each other that much.
Yeah.
So each of those courses, I have a different format. I have a different way of approaching the content,
Yeah.
and just to try to break it up a little bit, because yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, I need to.
But like I said, you do form a good relationship. You get to know them.
Yeah.
Whether sometimes that's a good thing or bad thing,
Yeah.
you really get to know them.
That's it. It's like
It's a great group dynamic, it's fun, it's not,
too
it's
much.
painful.
Yeah, and it's like it's like I don't know. We run it very much like a work environment. So after a while, you just get comfortable,
Yeah.
right? And then
Did you have much conflict, like student?
not yet. Not that. Yeah, last year we had quite a bit, and we dealt with it.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. Brand new. I didn't know how to do this stuff. Talked to him a bunch of times. When it became a problem,
Yep.
I didn't have anything documented. I didn't know about progress concern. I didn't know about this stuff. So this guy made it through a lot of stuff like
Yeah.
misconduct notices, plagiarism, failures, all that kind of stuff. And it was until the very end of the year where he was asked not to come back for
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
But because
But should he have challenged it without the documentation in
he would've
place,
fine.
he probably would have been, yeah.
But that's what happened. He pulled a little caper at the end of the year, and if he hadn't have done that second plagiarism, he'd still be here.
I actually have a story very similar to that. I had a student that was caught near the end of first year cheating, stole assignments from another student, manipulated it slightly and submitted it. So he was documented as cheating, and it was on the record. He went home. He failed a couple courses. He went home. Came back. He's an international student, so he went way home. Came back and submitted documentation that he had over the summer took additional courses that now he could transfer for credit to count towards the ones he failed. So we thought, well, that's good, I guess. So when he went to admissions and submitted the credit transfer, they said, well, Chris normally has to approve that. He said, oh no, Chris already approved it. Chris didn't know anything about it. So we discovered that there were falsified transcripts from this other institution.
Oh my gosh.
So I thought, well, he's done. Just get him out of here. Anyway, he somehow convinced the registrar and the manager that he truly believed that they were authentic documents, that he had paid something like $5,000 to this person to give him these courses, and that he was somehow scammed. So in the end, we said, fine, but we're keeping a close eye on you.
Yeah.
So cheated again, plagiarized, and again, I still don't know how he didn't get kicked out at that point. But then he was put on probation, and 2 weeks after that, he submitted his final thesis paper. The whole, there's progress reports that he has to submit. Every progress report was 2 sentences in length. Like, it was just terrible. So his final report was this beautifully mastered 60-page report, like pristine, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And this student, very, like, even those 2 sentences that he would submit, you could barely read them. And then he submits something like that. So of course, into Google, copy and paste a paragraph. Oh, there's where that paragraph's from. There's where this paragraph's from. Like 90% of it was plagiarized. So anyway, we submitted that. This was a month before graduation, basically, and we told him, "You're gone." That's 4 strikes. You shouldn't even made it to the 3rd one, actually, as far as I'm concerned. But you're gone. And he tried to fight it. He tried, but nope. The gall.
Perseverance.
Yeah, I'll give you an A for effort.
I'm trying to cheat my way through this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like we told him, "You're cheating. You can't do that." It's like he took it as a challenge. Yeah, I bet you I can cheat.
If you spent half the amount of effort actually doing the work, then
Yeah.
into
Yeah. And you know what? Even if you would have just got a pass in the poorer version, like, but nope, he had to do that. But he had an answer for everything every time. He had an excuse. He had some way of getting, but he couldn't get out of this one. So that was it. And it's too bad because he seemed like, overall, he seemed like a good kid, smart kid. Could have did the work. I think just when he failed the courses in the first year, because he's international, I think he panicked that he had to get it done in 2 years. And then that's where the scheme all started to come out, that he had to get this all done. But very unfortunate. But
So, yeah, May 18th, July. So those are the things that we grades on. So what's the other stuff?
my webcam keeps kicking out.
Yeah.
Again, all sorts of things that never happen
I've always.
happening today.
It's good because for us, like, seeing things the first time, it's almost bad if everything goes so smooth.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
do it, you
true,
feel like a big
true.
failure.
Yeah.
So the only other thing, I normally only stream for about an hour at a time, so maybe the camera's getting too warm and shutting down or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's the main screen is still recording, so that's the important part. All right. So you got everybody back? Yeah. So Todd had mentioned the Office Suite. The Office Suite is something I've done some classes on. The Office 365 especially, I could teach 3 or 4 days worth of content. So there's no possible way I can go through and give you all the content that you'd need. But I'm going to show you something that I use every single day, both in my personal life and my work life. It's the Microsoft OneNote. Microsoft OneNote is an amazing tool. It's part of the Office 365 package, but you can buy it individually as well, so if you just want the OneNote. This is OneNote 2016 version. The 29 version, or the 2019 looks considerably different. Or if you go through the online version in Office 365 through web browser, the online version looks a little bit different. Mostly what's over there is over here, and what's on the top, those tabs, are over here as well. It's just a little more confusing, but it does exactly the same thing. So I had mentioned I'm currently taking my master's, and I do everything in OneNote. UPEI, who I'm taking my master's through, they use Moodle, which is our equivalent of SAM. So what I do is I go into Moodle, I take the data from Moodle and I move it into my OneNote and I use it from there. So the basics of OneNote is it's a note-taking software that you can create all sorts of great kind of hierarchical storage capabilities of working with notes and files and things like that. But the more I use it, the more tools I find that are really incredible to use. So I've created a OneNote here, a notebook called the MED 21st Century Teaching and Learning, and along the top I have my tabs of different information, so financial stuff about like my payments and things like that, any notes that come or emails that come from administration, but I also have tabs for each course that I take. So here's the first course, an intro to 21st century teaching. Then on the other side, the right side, I'll expand this out a little bit so you can see it better. This is where I can add subpages to this particular tab. What I do is I break it down by the week, and inside each week, and you can see I have multiple things inside each week, but inside what I'll do each week is I will come and I will take parts of, let's say, the rubric, and I put it in. So what are we going to be doing that particular week? So that's from the professor's rubric. Any readings that I have that week, what I'll do is I'll drag and drop them into the OneNote. So this is a PDF that I've brought into the OneNote. So I can make my own notes, but I also can drag files into the OneNote. So when I do my readings, they're all right here. I find them all in one easy to find location. What I did here, I'm like a visual learner. We talked about that earlier. I don't read very well. I can read. I don't read well. Meaning I can read a sentence. Sometimes it sticks with me, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I read a paragraph and I say, what did I just read? I can't remember. Because I'm more visual. I'm not very good at reading. So what I do is I use mind maps while I'm reading, and I jot notes down, and sometimes the reading is all over the place, so sometimes my mind maps are all over the place. But it really helps me focus the ideas and concepts. So I do those mind maps and then I bring them in and I just paste them in here. Then I have my own reflections. And I go on to the next week. I take pieces of their information, other stuff that I do, notes that I want to quickly make. Maybe I read something and I think, oh, this really applies to week 2. I found this article. I can come and I can put a link into it, or I can actually download that article and paste it in here, whatever I need to do. It's great. I can resize, do that. If I have it on a device, I can write. Like if I have an actual electronic pen, a stylus or something, I can actually handwrite notes. I can insert all sorts of different things. Like, well, maybe I found like a website or something that I wanted to add to here. I could do a screen clipping. And I can add the screen clipping here, or wherever that went. Oh, right there. It's hard to see it. But I can go out and grab things. I can bring them in if I need be. One area I really like is the audio. I can record audio. So if I'm in a meeting or something like that, I can bring my OneNote with me. I can record audio and I can add it to one of these tabs. It's a great, I seem to be all over the place, but it's a great way to accumulate all sorts of different types of information and bring them all together in one area that I can organize and I can file. So in the past, what I've done is I've created a folder and I would copy files into that folder. And then I would open those files and I could edit them, but then I resave it to that folder. But I might save a Word document, I might save a PDF, I might save a JPEG of a picture. But here I can do all that, but it's all visual. so I can add those PDFs, Word documents, and pictures all together in here, and then I can access them. One really great thing is, see if I can find, need to find a Word document. Right there. So there's a Word document. What I can do is I can double click that Word document. It opens it in Word. I can go make all my changes and I can hit save. And what it does is it saves it to that document right there. I don't have to save it and then reattach it later. It actually edits that one. And if I've shared this OneNote with somebody else, we both can go in there and we can edit that document, and the changes that both of us work on will be shared. If I've shared this OneNote as well, if I shared it with you, you would open this notebook up and you would see right next to all this content, it would say CA next to it. That I was the one that actually put it in. And when you added your own content, I would see your contributions with your initials on it. And I can actually even go and track, when did you do that? When did you last edit that? When did you make changes to that? Did you delete something by accident? I can go in and I can check things like, did you delete this? And I can undelete it and do all that kind of stuff. So it's not only great for organizing everything that you do, it is collaboration as well. I can share this with somebody else, and we can all can contribute to that.
So how is it indexed? Do you know, like, you compare it to when you create a Word document and you save it in whatever,
Yep.
folder and stuff. So here, like, this is for your master's program, so it's organized by course,
Yep.
financial.
It's all in one notebook. I can download this. It's
Yeah.
all in one file. I can save that to a USB if I wanted, and I can take it. Everything is inside that file.
But do you have anywhere where you see the documents, or you have to like scroll?
You'd have to go to where you remember putting it,
Okay.
or you can search. There's a pretty powerful search utility.
Okay.
The search will search not only through the content that you have written in there,
Right.
it'll search through all the Word documents and PDFs and everything that you in there. And it will also, get this, if you've taken a picture of something and there's words in that picture, it indexes the words in the photo,
As well.
and you can search for the words in those photos as well.
But it's yeah.
So,
You can search by extension too, like .wpd, and then it'll bring all the Word documents up, and then
you probably could do that. Let's see, I'm going to look for something here. Let's use this word here. I guess it was spelled wrong, but let's see if this works. So if I'm outside of that document and I do a word search for kinesthetic, it appeared in reflections. I thought it would come up with multiple results. But if I do a word search here, this will be a big one. Student. You can see here in the title of these files, on page here, here it appears. So I could search for a word that would be in one of those Word documents, and it should come up and show me where that word actually came from. Now, the student was a pretty big word or a pretty common word to search for, but it gives me that ability to do that. But you're right, it's not organized the same,
No, I get,
but you would have to remember where you put it in, or at least then you could search. So that's a good question. Could I search for Word documents? Is there a way to... There's got to be a way. I'd have to go through and look for that, but I'm sure I could say, show me all the Word documents that are in here, and it would show me a list of all the Word or PDFs or anything like that. So I can add audio, like I said. Let me show you an example of that. Let's switch notebooks. We have one set up for our office environment, which I guess I didn't add to the list, but so it might take a while for this to synchronize. So I have one set up for all the instructors in our department, and it's all shared across. So any ISO information, documentation, things like that, we all share through here. A lot of people will use the H drive that they have set up at the college, or like a OneDrive or something, but we use this. Yeah, it's going to take a little while for it to update. What's going on? So, schedules, current staff schedules, emails about room bookings, because that always comes up. We sent you an email. Calendars, documentation, exit forms, things like this. We have one called student information, and I'm not going to open it up because obviously it's confidential, but I have it password protected. So if somebody ever stole this OneNote, there's a heavy encryption on that. They can't get in there. But what we do is we use this, that if I've done a progress concern notice on a student, I'll put a copy in their folder or their page, so that if another staff member's wondering, I wonder, this person's having some progress concerns, goes under the OneNote and sees, oh, Chris has already put one in. So I know that student is struggling, or if there's important emails that come from that student, like a doctor's note or something like that, I add it to their page. And it's really easy. If I'm in Outlook, I just right click on the email, say send to OneNote,
Right.
and then I choose the page I want to send it to. Yeah. It's great. Staff meetings. Staff meetings aren't great. That's not what I meant. Except staff meetings with my manager. He's awesome. It's going to take a while. I record them. So when I'm in there on my phone, I've got OneNote on my phone. I just hit record, and it saves it to there. And then I take our schedules. Another really cool thing, I think it's kind of cool. Let's say that this is not just an agenda, but it's a list of things to do. I can highlight it. I can go up to, which one is it? Yeah, I can add it as an Outlook task. So I just hit to do, and now it puts a little checkbox next to it. Now in my Microsoft Outlook, under my tasks, it's there as a task. And if I complete it in my calendar,
It'll complete it there.
it puts a little cross out through here in OneNote. So my team can look at this and see who's doing what job and who completed what task and all of that. So it's completely integrated into the other programs as well, which is pretty amazing. Advisory committee, orientation documentation. I like having this, especially in September. Everything is up to date and ready to go. One big thing too is like our schedules. Sometimes our schedules change each year, so we'll create a new file to have that schedule. Now we don't. We edit the file that's in here, and that's our official copy. So we don't make 12 different copies of the schedule anymore. Everybody knows to edit this particular one. So I just created a table in here. I gave it file name descriptions and put them in there like that. It's a little easier way to organize and find them. So, and like say, if I need to make changes to this, I open it, make changes, hit save, and now everybody has those saved changes. There's no confusion anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Can you get an archived copy back if you
Yes.
make bad changes?
Yep. Under history, recent edits,
Okay.
recycle bin. There's probably nothing in that particular file, but you can go through and you can see things. If something's been deleted or edited, you can go back multiple copies and restore versions. Yeah, you can even see who deleted it. So one area that I had really interesting is students were doing group work, so they shared a OneNote. Then in the end, they accumulated all of the information they put into OneNote into a report and submitted it. Well, one of the students that was in the group didn't contribute very much and wanted the same mark as everybody else. So they were able to prove that in the collaborated document, here's all the things that Johnny did, Sally did, Mark did, Fred didn't. Like, and it was there. There was no arguing it. That person did not contribute, so they did not get the same mark as everybody else. So that's just one instance, but I really like the software. The students now, they'll create a tab for each course that they're in. Any documentation that I give them, or assignments or labs or anything, all go kind of in there, and they can share bits and pieces with each other if they want, or they don't have to, but they can create a collaborative. So if there's a group working together, they can share information, they can drag and drop stuff into that. Works very, very well. So it is definitely software that I would recommend. Again, don't really have time to show you how to do everything. Just an idea that it's there and that it's definitely usable. My suggestion would be take some time and play around with it and do that. Sound good? Did I talk your ear off?
Great. Useful.
A lot of ideas to think about. But yeah, so feel free if you have any additional questions. It's hard when I stand up here and say, do you have any questions? It's usually dead silence because there's so much to kind of think about and kind of decompress. If you have time to think about it and something comes to surface and you want to ask me any questions, please feel free. Send me an email, or I'm upstairs in the Charlottetown Center in the West Wing. 226W is my office. So if you want, ask a question, feel free. I'll do what I can to help. And I'll talk to Todd too to see if he wants me to come back, and maybe we can do some more focused, like, let's just do this, not share a bunch of ideas all over again, right? You can focus on a certain thing. Sound good? So we're 15 minutes early. I guess that's not that bad. Or late, I guess you said Todd usually lets us out of here. Or that. Don't get that guy back, Todd. Jeepers. I never shut up the whole day. Alright, I'm gonna flick that light on. It's gonna be a little bright in the eyes.